Welcome back, everybody. Today we're getting into the Glock 42. This pistol right here is chambered in .380, and when it was first released a little over a year ago now, a lot of folks were really upset that it wasn't 9mm. A lot of folks have been begging for the Glock single stack 9mm. Well, you're gonna have to keep begging because it's not out yet, but this one is. And a lot of folks were also skeptical of the .380 cartridge itself as a defensive use cartridge, which we'll leave that to another video. We're not going to get into that too much here in this video, but this gun has been the #1 selling gun produced by Glock in 2014, so certainly the demand was there. A lot of folks may not have thought it was, but you know, results say otherwise. So a lot of folks out there have purchased this gun, carrying this gun, and have a lot of rounds through this gun. So what we found because of that large sample size is that the early guns seem to have some problems, reliability problems. A lot of folks having slides that would lock back randomly, failures to extract, failures to eject, stovepipes, all kinds of stuff that you don't want to see in a handgun. Well, Glock has made rolling changes to the pistol along the way. This particular one here was made in, I believe, October 2014. It has all the current parts that have been updated, at least as I understand it. We'll show you those here throughout the review. But what we're going to do is just get into the details of this little gun here, what I think about it, do some more shooting with it here. We'll show you some sort of a long-range accuracy, and then I'll come back and let you know what I think of it overall. Since this gun is being marketed by Glock to new shooters, we'll go over sort of the basics of it here. We have a polymer frame. There are no interchangeable back straps like there are on some of the Gen 4 Glocks out there. This one here is made in the USA, as you can see here by the slide markings, as well as some of the proof markings throughout the pistol. Our magazine release here is on your left side as it comes from the factory, but it is reversible. So you can put it on the right side for you left-handed shooters that prefer that. The slide lock here is only on the left side of the pistol. It is not ambidextrous. So if you want to lock the slide to the rear, that's how you do it. Push up on it and pull your slide back to verify that we are empty, which we are. Your magazines are going to hold 6 rounds plus 1 in the chamber for a total capacity of 7 rounds. A note on that, the O2 annotated here on the bottom of the magazine annotates that it's the latest version of the magazine. They had some that came out early with no markings on there, then 01 and now 02. So it has updated follower and some other feedlet design changes that Glock has made along the way. A little later on in the video, we'll talk about the shootability aspect of this gun, but one thing that's different from most Glocks is going to be the trigger. It looks the same. From the outside, you have your little safety here to prevent it from actually going back unless it's depressed, so that way if you don't actually activate that, your trigger cannot move to the rear, which helps prevent accidental discharges should you drop the pistol. But the insides of it, which we'll show you here in a second, are quite different, and the actual pull weight of it is also very different. Now, I've measured this one here on my trigger pull scale, and it breaks right around 8 pounds. Glock says, if you look at their website, that it breaks, I believe, at like 5.62 pounds is the spec, but there's no way. It absolutely does not. It's heavier than your average Glock. However, it's still going to be more crisp than a lot of .380s out there, and also really than a lot of them when you compare it to like the Bodyguard or the LCP. It's going to be lighter than them as well. Nice break, and then when you let it go forward, it has a very positive and audible reset. Outside of those back straps we mentioned, the gun does have some Gen 4 features out there. So it has the grip texture of the Gen 4s on the sides, as well as the front strap and the back strap of the pistol. So it does give you a good purchase on the gun. Definitely allows you to grip it and get some good friction there on your hand as you're firing it, which is certainly important when you're firing a small 380 pistol. The slide is treated with a nitride treatment or a nitrocarburization finish. What that does there is it adds to surface hardness, also gives you a nice little matte finish, a matte black finish I should say, over the length of the entire slide, and really gives it good corrosion resistance throughout. Glock finishes over the last few years have been sort of hit and miss in terms of aesthetically pleasing qualities, but this one here is really nice and even throughout. It has the loaded chamber indicator here, so when there's actually a round in there, this piece here will protrude a little bit, letting you know that you do have a round in the chamber and you can feel it in low light situations. The sights that come on it are just your U-shaped rear and dot front sight. That's very common across Glock pistols. In my opinion, they're one of the weak spots of the pistols as they come from the factory. They tend to break a lot. In my opinion, the sight picture is not all that great either, so I installed some Trigicon HD sights, and these things are awesome. Really, really like them. They do a great job of allowing you to pick up the front sight, but still give you a nice 3-dot picture in low light conditions. Basic disassembly of the pistol is standard Glock, so you're just going to ensure that you are clear, which we are. Point the gun in a safe direction, pull the trigger. At that point, we're going to pull back about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on the slide and pull down these two tabs here and let the slide go home. At that point, your slide will come off. We do have a steel double recoil spring, very common, obviously, on all the Gen 4 pistols, as well as some of the subcompact pistols before. You can see it is marked 10. As far as I know, that's the current version of the spring. That has been changed along with the magazine that we talked about earlier. Take your barrel out. The barrel itself is a 3.25-inch barrel. And it is cold hammer forged and has polygonal rifling in there, so it's real easy to clean out. On the right here, we have the G42 slide, and here we have a Glock 27 slide, so you can see it is a good bit thinner. But the thing that you really notice is the firing pin safety, or the striker safety, I should say. Here on the 42, it's a completely different shape and has a different feel when you push it down as well, and that contributes to the different trigger pull that we were getting there. It's very stiff here and sort of clicks. I'm not sure if you can hear that, whereas over here it's very smooth all the way through, so it definitely feels different as you actually engage it. The trigger mechanism is also very different on the Glock 42. Here we have our 42, and then again over here the Glock 27, just to illustrate the point. But you know, most Glocks besides the 42 are going to have very standard internal parts. So here you can see we have some cutouts here, which are very different on the 42, and also the cruciform here on the back is very different as well. It's much smaller, and it doesn't come down in the front like it does on some of the other Glocks. It just stops as a straight cross. The connectors are also very different. Here's the 42. You can see how much smaller it is, and the angles there are slightly different. It's a little bit steeper there on the 42, which is going to cause, again, an increased trigger pull weight. But the biggest difference is right here on our spring. This is the trigger spring here on a standard Glock. And then on the inside here, you can see it's sort of a leaf spring on the 42. So when you're actually pulling it, it's very consistent throughout the pull, sort of like a New York trigger spring for those of you guys that have used those on the factory Glocks. And definitely has a different feel and also increases the weight like we talked about there. The slide stop here is also quite different on the 42 here on the right, and the 27 over here. You can see this one uses that sort of leaf spring over there to keep it, keep the tension on it, I should say, whereas this one has a spring all the way across, and we'll show you how it actually goes in here. It's quite different as well. For those of you familiar with Glocks, if not, I do have a video on taking them apart on the YouTube channel. But basically, this little groove right here, which we can see is right here, that's where that actually slides in. So that spring fits right down in that little gap. If we can get it in there and show you, just like that. So at that point, you can put your locking block in, which is slides right over the top of it there. Like we just talked about for the sights, there's a ton of accessories available for this pistol, like there are for all Glock pistols. Now, this pistol is relatively new in the Glock lineup, but obviously it's very popular. So there's a lot of holsters out there. We've been using the Warthog gear holster that you see here. Really nice inside the waistband holster with the leather backing, so that way it allows for a lot of comfort, but still, you know, a low profile there when you're wearing it inside the waistband. Whenever you bring up the Glock 42 around folks who are really into firearms, they always say, why would you get something like that when it's the same size as a lot of 9mm pistols out there? Well, let's check it out and see if it actually is. Here's my Bodyguard 380 that I do occasionally carry when really nothing else will just go with what I'm wearing. And you can see the Glock 42 is larger than it, just checking it out dimensionally. It's a little bit longer, both lengthwise, and it is really about the same width overall, maybe a little bit thicker in the slide, but down here on the frame, it's actually pretty much the same. So the Bodyguard 380 is a little smaller, no doubt about it, but the trigger on this one's a little bit rougher and harder to get accurate hits with. So sort of just the nature of the beast with small 380s, if you will. Now let's check out the shield. Smith & Wesson shield. This one here is in 9mm. The rest of these guns will be 9mm guns that we'll show you here, which a lot of folks say is what you should be carrying, not a 380. So we'll leave that to another day. But size-wise, we can talk about it. The shield is larger. It's larger and heavier. This Glock 42 unloaded only weighs just over 12 ounces. So very lightweight gun for sure. And you can see there, we'll line it up right on the tip of the slide there. You can see the shield is longer as well. We can actually get that on camera. So you get those slides lined up. You can see it does come out a little bit further, and it's also longer here. Width-wise, it's fatter as well. Some folks out there say the shield is a pocket gun. For me, I don't find it to be. I find it extremely comfortable inside the waistband, but it is definitely larger than the 42 for sure. Next up, we'll take the Springfield XDS, another very popular carry gun. And again, we'll line the tip up right there of the end of the barrel and muzzle, and you'll see it is longer. Both in the slide length, and the grip area is also fatter. And line the tops up and you'll see it also is longer. So folks out there that say that there's 9 is the same size, they're not quite. I also have a CM9 and it's still larger than the Glock 42. And staying in the Glock family, I should say, we have our Glock 26 here. And you will see, this is actually 27, but size-wise, it's the exact same. You can see there, again, it's going to be longer when you line it up. And it's almost exactly the same in terms of length, or height, I should say, top to bottom. But the big difference there is going to be thickness. There's a huge difference, especially if you're carrying this inside the waistband or in a pocket carry type situation with the Glock 26 or 27.
One of the advantages the Glock 42 has over a lot of 380s out there on the market is going to be shootability. Now, the factory sights that come on it, I personally don't like. One thing I always say about Glocks is I don't like the sights. I think they're crappy quality-wise, and I personally don't like the sight picture. Obviously, we upgraded ours here, as you can see, much improved. And that combined with a little bit larger gun than some of the pocket 380s, as well as a better trigger, not a great trigger, but a better trigger, makes it much more shootable. Now I'm trying to bring some steel here at distance. I may miss it, but the reality is, guys, with most of the 380s, I wouldn't expect to get any hits. With this one, I do. So we'll see if I can actually do it, or if I'm going to eat my words. So, I mean, certainly wasn't rapid shooting or anything like that, but that target's down there at 40 yards. So that's a pretty decent size shot, or pretty decent length shot for a 380. So, and we weren't shooting anything special, just 100 grain Freedom munitions stuff. So nothing like super accurate or anything like that. But the gun is a very shootable gun for 380. Whenever someone considers carrying a gun or employing it for a self-defense purpose, home defense, duty carry, whatever the case may be, I always recommend you test it with the ammo that you're going to run in it. So throughout the video, we've been running a bunch of full metal jacket stuff, but I've also been running some rounds here through it that I plan on carrying if I do carry this gun, and that will be the Winchester Ranger 95 grain stuff. So we're going to run some through here on camera. I've ran some through off camera. No issues so far, but you always want to make sure, particularly on 380s, because they tend to be ammo finicky. This one, again, so far has been awesome, but we'll see. I didn't lock the last round back. That may have been my thumb, but other than that, shot fine. Actually shot a pretty good group down there on the target as well.
We didn't cover reliability yet, so I suppose we'll get into that. This gun, with me shooting it through about 500 rounds, with me shooting it again, has had a grand total of 0 malfunctions. It has ran flawlessly, as you'd expect from any Glock pistol. That said, I've given this pistol to a number of new shooters because, you know, when you mention that you have a Glock 42, folks, they want to shoot it. So I've given it to a number of new shooters, female shooters, and one of them had problems with it. I don't know if it was just that day, that shooter, or what. My guess is it was that shooter because it was a female shooter who wasn't all that experienced, and my guess is she was limp wristing it because we had some stovepipes, 2 stovepipes with her, and about 60 rounds I think she probably put through it. So that's the only issues it's had. So my guess is that's probably user error rather than gun error. And again, with me shooting it, it's had 0 issues at all. So that's the good thing. You know, it seems that as these guns have had those rolling changes made to them, if you look at the reports out there on the forums, the reliability rate sort of seems to be increasing, if you will. And if you want to take a look at what those changes were, and you know, if your gun needs to have those changes, I'm going to post a link down in the description of a good thread over at a forum called Glock Talk. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, you can check it out and you can actually read it all without being a member. So you go over there. I recommend that you read that thread. It'll explain it more than I could do here. It would take me 15 minutes to explain everything that's in that thread. So lots of good info there that you want to check out if you're worried about your gun not having the updated parts, or if you're having reliability issues as well. It'll help you sort of diagnose them. But all in all, guys, the gun's been great. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's been a very good gun for a 380 like we saw out there earlier. It is very shootable. You can definitely get hits at longer distances and faster at closer distances than you can with a lot of 380s. Obviously, that has to do with the trigger and the gun being a little larger than most 380s. So you're always sacrificing something when it comes to a gun. You're sacrificing size, weight, something, shootability, capacity. But if you're comfortable with a 380 pistol that only holds 7 rounds, it certainly seems to be a decent option. Now, as always, I don't recommend really small guns for new shooters or, you know, female shooters who are inexperienced. A lot of folks always say, oh, let me get my wife the LCP or something like that. Well, for somebody who's not the best shot, the triggers can be challenging. The recoil impulse can be a little sharp for new shooters as well. So just something to take into account there. Like I said, you're always sacrificing something, but all in all, it's been a good gun. I believe these are coming to market somewhere in the $400 to $450 range. So a little more expensive than some of the 380s out there, but again, cheaper than others. So it seems to be at least affordable for most folks out there. But really, to me, I'm going to say, at least my sample anyway, is a good gun. But like I said, some of them certainly have had their issues. If you guys have any questions that we didn't cover here in the video, you can always post below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching. Hopefully I provide a little entertainment and maybe a little learning value along the way. And I hope to see you in the next video.